They not like us.
They not like us, baby.
Welcome to another episode of Brown and Browner. Welcome you on a Thursday. A new set of football, new set of sports, new set of everything. It's going to be a fun day.
Yes, it will be.
Here we are on a wonderful Thursday. Sun is bright. Fun sports week. Baseball playoffs are in action. Football's in action. Basketball world's heating up with a little bit of trade stuff already before the NBA season. It's good times right now.
That is very true. There's a lot going on in advance of the NBA season. The hockey season's just kicking out. You got some magnificent baseball that has been played by teams that nobody thought would go anywhere.
Yes, sir.
And then lastly, football is football. That's why football is so great. 17 weeks. One of the shortest schedule in professional sports, but it all means something. Every week really means something in their desire to win the Super Bowl.
Quick adjacent notes. I don't know if you noticed in baseball this year for the playoffs, the team that is the better seed gets to host basically all the home games for the first round. So in this first round that we just saw over the last couple of days, starting on Tuesday, the team gets to host all three games in a best-of-3 series for that initial elimination round, and that's what happened. So Baltimore was scheduled to host all three games against the Royals. The Astros were hosting all three games against the Tigers. I forget the evening games. It was Arizona or whatever, and
the
Brewers, so forth. Now,
Arizona didn't make the playoffs, by the way.
Sorry, we had Atlanta and all them. So
yeah,
going back to it now, in the old days, and it's not that old, we played an alternating series where it's home and home and home, right? And
which is more fair,
right? So when did this change? I guess must have been a rule change in the last player agreement, I'm assuming, in the MLB. And do you feel that that's fair in this situation? It's almost like, hey, they were set up, but I say, was it fair? But you just had two road teams win in the AL.
That is very true. And my hat's off to Detroit because 110 games into the season, they were 10 games back in the wild card race. And they came back with a vengeance. Not only did they win a spot to be in the playoffs in that wild card playoff series, but they swept
their butt.
They swept a team that has made the conference championship and has won the actual the World Series championship like 2 or 3 times in the last 5-10 years, right? Yep. So kudos to them. You go to D-Town, that's what's supposed to happen. And if you now all of a sudden you guys went from also rans to Detroit is now in the divisional series and could win that. Who are they playing? I think is it the Yankees? No, it's not the Yankees. The Royals are playing the Yankees, so they would be playing
Guardians. Sorry,
the Guardians, yep. Which is a tough out. The Guardians are actually really good. Yeah. So that'll be interesting.
Well, on the converse, the Royals lost 107 games last year.
Wow.
And now look at it.
And now, yeah. How you like that?
How you like that?
Yeah. I think, and talk about another city, just like Detroit. Detroit's on the rise. Kansas City's there in football, but to have the Kansas City Royals be relevant again is awesome. I mean, they've been relevant a couple of times and did some good things, but if you look back from George Brett to now, haven't been that relevant.
And the thing is that they're doing it without. I mean, I say this. You got Bobby DeWitt, you got Pasquantino. I mean, you've drafted ridiculously well in the last couple of years. But beyond that, they don't have like superstar power or anything like that. Yeah, in my opinion, they have. And I'm biased as a Cardinals fan for having Yadier Molina, but I think you have the second best catcher alive in Salvador Perez. I think that guy makes stars, and it takes a catcher like that to be on a championship team and cultivate a good culture. So I get that. But the Royals, I mean, they're like an every 10-year type thing. Otherwise, they're a losing franchise.
Exactly.
No different than
that's why I mentioned George Brett.
Yeah, like the Tigers. I'm happy for it. I wish Miggy Cabrera could have been there, for a
right. Miggy was there all that time, and now he's gone, and they're actually doing something.
Yep. So no, I love it when these like workhorse mentality, like hot runs from these teams that are kind of underdogs throughout the years and seasons make this big hot run in the playoffs. It's cool to watch.
It's very cool to watch, and I'm hopeful that some of the other teams in the National League can do the same thing. I mean, to watch teams that basically are on paper supposed to just dominate, they get home field advantage, and then they still can't win.
I mean, get ready for that Padres Dodgers matchup, boy. You got some
That's
star
going to be a good one.
On there.
That's going to be a good one. I'm always for the underdog, or most of the time, unless it's against my team. So I'm rooting for the Padres.
I'd like to root for the Padres, but you know what? I just love that Shohei story. I can't help it. Like, as much as
I love it
hate
too
for the Dodgers because of all the money and everything else that's there, that dude's just a born winner, and I like to see it for him to get a ring. It'd be cool to see him win internationally and on the World Series stage.
And I agree with that. And I'm so happy. You know, you have some of these athletes, and you saw it with even Yao Ming. They go to these teams that aren't ready to win, and they get buried in obscurity, even though they're great talent, because they're on the worst teams possible. For Shohei to finally get picked up by a team that, I mean, let's be honest, Dodgers could win without him. But
without him.
Yeah, but to see him shine and to be able to put on display for the whole world to see that this guy can pitch. People forgot this year he didn't pitch. That guy can pitch, but he can hit and he can run with the best of them. And he set records that people didn't even fathom, like 50-50. Who does that? Nobody does that.
Nobody's thought. I mean, as much as we haven't ever thought about 50-50 in realism, just because the way the seasons play out, injuries, everything else. I mean, 40-40 was the threshold. We know that. You know, people have gotten there numerous times. And to have a guy at 50-50 with the durability of him, I mean, is it going to happen again? I don't know. But it's going to take a hell of a lot of conditioning and discipline, because that's the one thing I value out of the guy. Even outside the baseball field, the man lives a very disciplined regimen in terms of what he does, and in the nicest way possible. Apparently, the guy stays after games to sign autographs for hours.
Love it.
The media, he takes time with everything that's in his life, and he understands his importance to the game. And it's hard to do that at, what age is he? Like barely even 25, 30 years old. He's not nothing, right? Like he's very young. Yeah.
Gotta love that he's doing all of these things.
Yep.
And I'm hopeful that he doesn't get lost in.
Yeah. Well, and I think he's finally the bad influence in his life, unfortunately. And I don't even know if it was an influence in his life. He had his translator, but boy, oh boy, was that just something else. Translator is supposed to be helping you, stealing your money. Yeah.
He's gone through a lot. And for him to set goals, despite some of the limitations he's had this season from a pitching standpoint, and then be able to exceed those goals, and for him to matter, and he's batting leadoff. Do you think he'll ever win a Cy Young on top of all this shit? Well, that would be incredible. He was this close to a triple crown. That close to a triple crown. So who knows? I wouldn't limit any of the expectations for that guy, because he's shown that he has exceptional ability. And as you mentioned, he has exceptional discipline, desire, want, and even more importantly than all of those things, he retains the joy. If you watch him play, he enjoys it. And that's the key to any real great athlete success, is they treat it like your best job.
Yep.
You'll always love going to work if you love what you're doing.
You see that in the Bradys of the world. You see that in the Mahomes of the world. Like you see that in the guys that are at the top of their game that just enjoy being out there. You see the smiles on their face. Like you can see the work is all paying off, and they're like, "Hey, I just get to go out here and do my thing. It's fun." Steph Curry.
And he has that. And just this little sidebar, and I think we may have talked about this before. They need to start having that joy and being able to allow athletes to express themselves. I mean, there's a limit to what you can do, and there should be a line from a respect your competitors and respect the game. But a little trash talk, a little joy, a little happiness. Let's show some of that. Let's not be like what the NFL, when they call it a not fun league, because they were basically banning celebrations when you got a bunch of guys running around all hyped up, ready to knock each other out. And then when they get to the pinnacle of what they're trying to do, the success, and they achieve it, you want them to what? To sit back like they're at an opera, like they're at some symphony. They're supposed to act like golfers where they're not supposed to express themselves. Come on, man. Let's stop doing that. This is sports. Sports should be celebrated and be focus on the emotion, because it's stressful for every one of those athletes to be out there. So let them let off a little steam and show happiness.
if you want to make your sport popular and iconic, there are things indelible in my memory from a kid that I just remember. It's not even the performance of the athlete. Dion doing the high step. All right.
My favorite ball player, one of my favorite of all time, Dion.
Icky Woods doing the Icky shuffle. I will still remember it to this
Dirty
day.
Bird. The Dirty Bird. Hey,
come on, baby. Like
all of those things. That's why they brought that back when they had Icky Woods during the commercials in the deli, where that was so funny for anyone who knew Icky Woods and knew what that all stood for back in the day when he was with Cincinnati. Awesome.
Yep. No, that's where I say you need to let players do the creative thing. I get the fine line, taunting. That's different.
Yeah,
this is freaking celebrating. I mean, come on, man. If they do the tango, let them do the tango. I don't care what the hell they want to do it in the end zone. As long as it's not taunting, fine. Let them do it.
Yep. I mean, again, there's a fine line, like what Tom Kim did in golf. You're supposed to be there, be respectful of the player. But the other side of some of the things they did got criticized because of that. And I didn't think those things were wrong. For them to, like, I hit a putt. You know how, like, Steph Curry, when he throws a shot up and he turns around and does this because he knows it's going in. It's not even in the basket yet, but he knows it's going in. If I'm hitting a putt from like 20 feet and I know I hit the line and I know it's going in, am I supposed to just sit there and do nothing? Or can I just walk it off like a Steph Curry 3?
Well, no offense to Tom Kim, but maybe it was lost in translation. I don't want to be racial about it, but the dude hit the celly on a 16th hole in a tie game. I'm sorry, it ain't over. Like,
well, that's true.
Over.
That's true. It wasn't over, and they ended up losing the match too, didn't they?
Yeah.
So that was sort of dumb. But again, I'm okay with the little trash talk. Yeah. The great thing about trash talk, well, you know, or actions, is you can have that for the moment. And I'm one that's big on this. You can talk trash while you're winning, but I'll talk trash after I've won, and that's sort of what happened there.
In golf, I think the iconic move is the Tiger fist pump. I mean, when he hit that on 16 way back in the day, like,
oh yeah, or when he pointed the ball into the hole, all the way into the hole.
Yeah,
you gotta love that
stuff like that. No problem. Even in the middle of a match, I wouldn't even mind that. You know what I mean? Like, totally get it. But no, let's learn what night means first. That's all I'm saying.
Well, good point. And now just to move on, you know, baseball's been celebrated. You know, the hockey season's starting. I was watching some games just recently. Basketball, real quick. Did I hear right that the Knicks are getting Towns and they gave up Randall and DiVincenzo for that?
Now, so there's an interesting twist to this, and I think I read into it correctly. So the way they had to make it work because of salary cap and all the craziness, and obviously Big Cat's a big contract. Now, first off, you just got rid of the icon of your franchise in Minnesota, the guy that was a poster child for literally 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it was, you know, coming out, and gave him up for what I consider to be scraps. And here's why I say scraps. DiVincenzo, you know, you broke up the Villanova band. Okay, cool. You know, whatever. I hate to say it. And then Julius Randle has become kind of an enigma. Like, ever since he got his rep as a player, he's got an ego, and he didn't really fit in with the rest of the New York vibe that was coming with the workman mentality under this new regime. So I get that one. But then as part of the cap move, they'd also get like another $8 million off the books. Now, here's the thing. New York apparently owns rights to some players in Europe because of the draft and the way, you know, the NBA works these days. So they gave away like rights to some, you know, obscure 3 guys that will never come to the NBA because they're playing in Europe and, you know, happy or whatever, right? So that was the whole move. In that move, apparently the New York Knicks have to pay some small Serbian team that owns the rights to that other players, one of those 3, $900 million. $900,000.
Okay, I was going to say $900 million would be ridiculous. Yeah. 900,000 is still sort of ridiculous. Why did is it me or is it something about New York where they do these things to me that hits their bottom line and gives them no return? I think Bobby Bonilla is still getting paid by the Yankees somewhere, or the Mets, or somebody in New York. Like, why do they do these things? And it turns out to be nothing but, you know, bad money, bad moves, and wasted money.
We consider New York to be the investment banking capital of the world, but honestly, it's full of the dumbest moves I've ever seen in my life, just from a consumer perspective. You've got the Mets doing the Bobby Bonilla thing, and they were also one of the first ones that invested in Bernie Madoff. We know where that went.
Yeah.
Tom Dolan, not exactly the most well-respected owner of the Knicks, and probably a moron in his own right for his own cable company. Different move there also with the whole MSG and all that stuff.
Right.
So I guess the Knicks, at one point, they were cheap, right, for the last 10 years. Now they decided to, I guess, overspend in some capacity. I don't know how or why. And yeah, they're getting Cat. I think that makes them contenders. Don't get me wrong. I think Cat's great. I think it's a good fit for the team. I think it's going to be a good thing for the Knicks. Can they compete with the Celtics? Can they compete with everybody else in the East? I don't think so.
The Knicks, since the 70s, when they actually won a couple championships, what have they done? We're talking 50 years of mismanagement and just paying the wrong players. No offense, Carmelo, but they shouldn't have been paying your ass what they paid you.
Well, that whole era between 2000 to now, basically, honestly, there was never any capability of this Knicks ever winning a title during that time, in my opinion. The only time they had a chance, 98, 99, the tail end of
Jordan was out and they screwed that up.
And you had Ewing, you had Starks, you had the whole crew, you had the whole bad boy, philosophy. You had Charles Oakley, you had everything. Puff Daddy was at the games. It was all that.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Having Puff Daddy at your games, man. I don't know now. Maybe that was the problem. They were having too many freak offs in the locker rooms afterwards.
Maybe you were in the locker room, not allowed. No.
Take that.
But needless to say, I still don't understand how the Timberwolves magically up and decided one morning, hey, let's trade Cat and get this, whatever this return. Now, the Timberwolves do have new management. I don't know if you're aware of this. So I forget the second owner, but the other primary owner now is also Alex Rodriguez.
Oh, I thought I did read something about that. I wasn't sure, but yeah. Which I don't know. Who cares really? Is he a good owner?
I don't think he's a good businessman at all, probably. I don't know how he's managed to even use his $250 million contracts from baseball in these days.
He's rich, that's all.
He's rich. Yeah, he's rich and he attends white parties. That's all I know. But I mean, like I said, we'll see where that trade falls. I'm just surprised that a market where they're so reliant on some, having star power so that they can have people come to the seats and watch games like Minnesota would part with such a big name. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and like you said, Ant-Man's there now, but you know what? Towns has held that franchise up for a while now. Yes. So I'm surprised.
Okay. Don't get me wrong. I love Ant-Man. I love his attitude. I love everything.
I love him. Yeah. He's going to be the face of the NBA. Yep. Ja Morant, you fucked up.
Oh, you lost your seat. Yeah.
Something I wanted to say while we were talking about things earlier, I want to make sure that people see this shirt.
Yeah, I was going to say,
with this shirt, this says, make a friend who doesn't look like you, and maybe you could change the world. And it has Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Bruce Lee on the shirt. And Bruce Lee was one of my idols growing up, and Kareem was the man that came up with the sky hook that nobody could ever contest, excuse me. But I think that we should all be looking at this as we have a lot of turmoil in our world today. This is the kind of thing that makes a big difference. Look at somebody who doesn't look at you and actually open your mind and your heart to try to understand them, as opposed to constantly sort of having these walls around us and only being able to see what we want to see and only being able to comment on the things we're most comfortable with, being around certain people, being around this. You learn more about yourself when you start opening up your world and being able to see other perspectives and hear them to try to understand them and incorporate them into your own way of living and learning and teaching. So I just wanted to get that one out there.
Yep. No, totally agree.
Let's hit some football. Yeah, I think we got all of the other sports. We talked a little bit about each one of those sports that are coming up, or that are in the playoff series, playoff sessions now. But my man, some of the games we saw last week were surprising, and my hats off to Jared Goff. Hats off to Jared Goff. I just traded you out of one of my fantasy leagues because you have been underperforming all year long. And it was reminding me of the golf that made that the LA Rams felt they could give away.
Right.
But you rebounded as soon as I traded you, and you went a perfect game, even catching a touchdown pass that was perfectly thrown from your wide receiver. And you're not fleet of foot. Matter of fact, there's nothing fleet about you. It's just foot, So I give you all the credit in the world. Hope that you can keep that up. Would love to see Detroit be one of those teams that contends for a championship, because that city deserves it.
Yep. Now, I'll kick this off by saying I think we started the season with some predictions on which conferences may be weak or strong and all that. I will be the first to say that we thought the the NFC South was going to be super weak. I'm sorry, but the NFC South has some ballers right now, and that's
you're right. We have to, we have to take accountability and own up to those comments. But how did you know that Tampa Bay was going to ball out like this, that New Orleans was going to ball out like this? And I think we all thought that Atlanta probably had the best chance of winning that division just because on paper with the additions and then they got Judon, we felt like they, had a chance there. And they still do. They still do look like they could win the division, but they could have 3 teams in the playoffs. And divisions like the NFC East might only get 1.
Yeah,
well, and it might not be the 2 that you thought it could have been.
You got 4 contenders in the North. You've got 2, possibly 3 coming in the South, right? Like the West, I mean, now it's in kind of trouble with the 49ers going all over the place. The Rams are in shambles. I mean, hell, Seattle might be the top, but even they're struggling. And then, Kyler Murray, you can't rely on that at the end of the day. It's Arizona.
Not consistently on a 17-game season.
Oh, that's going to be
What's
good.
that?
I said Marvin Harrison's going to be the boy. He's going to be that.
Oh, yeah. If they can get Kyler Murray to be more consistent, they could actually have a good team. I don't think their defense is as bad as they've looked, but if you're always chasing the lead, then you're going to end up, it's just hard to really be good when you're on the field. Your defense is on the field more than your offense.
They don't believe in the defense in the desert. They never have. They never will. It's just crazy. But no, as far as tonight's game go, now tell me if I'm wrong. Just optically, I think over the last 4 weeks, haven't Atlanta had like a prime time slot for 4 straight weeks now in terms of TV coverage? A lot of coverage these days.
yeah, and you know what? Let's be real. That's part of the fact that they bought that new stadium. They built that new stadium out. Now you have 3 teams with state-of-the-art stadiums with Dallas and LA and now Atlanta. So they have to give them a little pub. And the fact that they bolstered their team, I think they deserve it.
Yep. No, fully. No, and honestly, I like seeing the Monopoly man on the sidelines. It's just cool. I mean, he's the monitor. He's a little cane in a blank. Blank is awesome. I love that guy. He's got the special face that you see in either cartoons or like the 1930s. Like very dressed up, very sheen suit. Like he's the man.
All he needs is the monocle.
Seriously.
I'd like to see that. I think this is going to be a good game tonight. I think the biggest thing we've seen for Tampa Bay is Baker Mayfield is actually looking like he's balling when he's upright. So the one game he got sacked like 8 times and they got beat. I think that was Denver. But outside of that, he's been balling. And if Mike Evans and Godwin can stay healthy, they still have a decent tight end. They actually have this new rookie running back, isn't it? That's showing that he's got some moves and some strength.
Yep.
They could be much better than everybody thought they were going to be, and they could be a contender, at least to get to the NFC Championship. I don't know if they're going to win any Super Bowls, but
I mean, games at Atlanta tonight. I like Tampa's offense more than I like how Atlanta's operating their offense right now. I think Atlanta has tools, but they haven't figured out how to use them yet. And frankly, I still don't buy Kyle Pitts on any given day of the week. You can't sell me on him ever. It's like a used car sale. You can't sell me on this shit.
He looks like a great car, but boy, he doesn't really perform that well.
I mean, Drake London in name acts like Drake, but I don't know if he's performing like Drake. Like I don't get it right now.
Dun, 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 dun,
dun. Yeah, exactly. Now Bijan's the man. But if your entire offense sits on Bijan having to do everything, they'll pack the box. Tampa will take care of that, and then Atlanta's got to air it out. So really, I think it comes down to Atlanta being able to air the ball out tonight. If they do, I think they can be successful. But if I'm a betting man, which sometimes I am, I'm taking the under on Kirk Cousins being able to throw the ball tonight. I'm picking Tampa.
I can see that. And Tampa still got a defense, guys.
Yep.
Don't sleep on Tampa. They've always had a defense.
Exactly.
I think it's going to be a close game. I'm actually going the other way. If I'm betting on it, I would actually take Atlanta. I think that Cousins has found some chemistry with Mooney, and he's shown that in a couple of games. I think that, London is the real deal. It's just that we're wondering when London is calling and if they're always going to be there, to throw a little song out there. So let's see what they do. But I do think it's going to be a close game. I think, in this environment, in the Atlanta, being in their stadium, I think that gives them that little bit of an edge that's going to take them over, take them to the top and be able to win this game.
I feel like right now, if I look around the NFC South, I feel like the one place where there's a true home advantage is always going to be New Orleans. Those fans are rabid crazy about their team, and it's cool to watch what the Saints do. Atlanta, if they can build a home field advantage with some fans there, it'd be nice, especially in that new stadium, to kind of get that next feel, because they can be that team in the South. I think they're really capable. It's a matter of building that big atmosphere that they can take over those teams like the Saints and the Bucks at some point in time, because each of those teams is guaranteed to get 2 wins this year against the Panthers. We know that.
Oh yeah, that's unfortunate but true.
It's like getting 2 bye weeks. It's good,
I would like to see them be successful. We'll see what happens. I think they're still in the process, as you said, of understanding how to utilize the pieces they do have on offense and be effective and efficient in doing that.
Now, going back to pieces in London, the next game is in London on Sunday morning.
What do you think about all of this like London stuff and trying to expand football over to Europe?
Okay. I mean, obviously, I haven't been abroad for any game to London, Germany, or Brazil by any means. We have a lot of fans around the world. I get NFL's trying to globalize. Fully embrace that.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that we need to have our teams give up a home game, one, to go play at one of these places around during the season?
Yep.
And also, frankly, I think it kind of screws up even the player and the team performances when they have to travel like this. And meaning that has a meaningful impact in the playoffs. Like you just said at the beginning of the meeting here, you mentioned that we only have 17 games in the season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every sport at the end of the day, especially in some of these games that are being hosted. Like last year, a good example. I think it was last year or the year before. The Chiefs played the Dolphins in Germany. I think it was last year, right?
Yep.
And good game, get all that. But frankly, that was a playoff game as far as I'm concerned. That one literally came down to impacting who had home field, if you look at it.
And why should that be that over there?
Exactly. And like I said, you're taking also away a home game from home fans here in doing that. Now, I don't really have a good suggestion on how to make the game more global during the season because of that. Do you host more exhibitions, but then obviously players don't show up? Like, I don't know how we can try to solve that by hosting things in other countries without impacting this day-to-day season thing. Or do you just host an entire week somewhere else? Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess that wouldn't be so bad because then there are other teams that also have to experience that, as opposed to Jacksonville seeming to be the one team that they're constantly bringing over to Europe. My question with the Europe thing is this: what happened to NFL Europe?
Yeah, that's a good question. Shoot.
So are you promoting just more people watching football, or are you actually trying to promote football over there? Because I can tell you right now, and I got a European wife and European friends. Football is not football over there, and people don't embrace it, and they're still trying to understand it. And I get it; you can teach them, but the universal, international, global sport is what we call soccer.
Real football.
That's what they appreciate and will watch. Even if it's 90 minutes of no scores, they will get more out of it than they would in a high-scoring football game.
You pack a pub anywhere in London, Europe, anywhere else on a weekday at 10 a.m. because of soccer. You don't do it because of NFL football, I'm sorry to say.
That's right. They used to have a bar, I think it may still be here in Chicago on Irving Park, called The Globe. And whenever any of my international friends come in, we go there early morning to watch soccer. And it's packed. And it's energetic all day long. So a whole different vibe and a whole different feel. I'm not sure that I'm sold on this whole concept of trying to expand NFL over to Europe. And more importantly, I think some teams suffer. Hey, Philly won their game against Green Bay out there. What have they done since?
Yeah, exactly. And more importantly, let's say we get down to the end of the season, Philly gets a home game, Green Bay doesn't. How does that work out? And Philly sucks, let's say at that point, which they could. It's there's a lot. See, here's one wild idea, guys. Team that finishes last in each conference every year, they're forced to play the international game every year.
I mean, if they're going to do it, at least that gives you an incentive not to finish last.
Hell yeah.
I just think that if you're going to do that, every team should have to do it.
Yeah.
Because you're being unfair to those. And granted, you can't do that all in 1 year. But I think you're being unfair to the teams that have to go lose their home game. And none of these other teams are going through that.
Yeah, I feel like they've always done it based on popularity of fandom and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, so when are we going to send the Colts or the Broncos there? Like, you know what I mean? Like, hell, the Arizona Cardinals, why aren't we sending them to Mexico? You know what I mean? Like,
It makes you wonder. So what do you think? Who's going to win that game?
Early morning. I mean, let's put it this way. The Vikings are a team of perfection right now, and they're playing awesome. I think Rodgers and his whole team are in shambles right now in terms of play calling. They don't know what the hell they're doing. Robert Saleh's on a whole different block than what Aaron Rodgers is, it seems like. There's a lot of star power there, but they haven't figured out how to make it work. And whatever play calling going on doesn't work on any side of the ball. I'm going Vikings.
I have to agree with you. I think, people just keep thinking that Aaron Rodgers is the Aaron Rodgers of old. And I think one thing that people forgot, and don't get me wrong, is not that he's forgotten how to play. He just doesn't have the same pieces around him. He's not as comfortable where he is. And even when he has been comfortable, he's made some messed up throws. Yep. So I think they keep thinking that Aaron Rodgers from 5 years ago is going to show up. And maybe they get Devontae Adams, maybe they don't. But I don't think that they're as good as people think they are.
Yeah, and I think even if they get Devontae Adams, I honestly don't think it still works because, again, you got to get your coach and your players all on the same page. I think they have a bigger dysfunction in that organization right now than what people are mentioning.
And I think that was always the problem with me and Rodgers is Rodgers thinks he's the smartest man in every room he's in. And I'm sorry, how do you coach that from Salah's point of view? Yeah. He's trying to coach his team, and Rodgers is trying to impose his will and his philosophy on the team.
We forget, but
don't mesh.
Football's a team sport, and we've seen it fail every time when one guy has an ego. Terrell Owens, everything else throughout the course of history. You got to have a team mentality. That's what wins championships. Proven by the Patriots, obviously, for more than 20 years, as we know.
Right.
Proven by for what time they've had it. In the time they've had it.
Right.
It doesn't work their way around, so they can't sit there and have a quarterback have power and will over the entire team at this point. And the coach, honestly, is getting forgotten, essentially. Now, he was brought in as a defensive guru, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's what he did over in San Fran. And again, I go back to what I've said in the past. Problem with the Bears is they constantly bring in defensive coordinators, and they don't have any clue how to run an offense.
Yep. That's it. But again, we're coaches like that we haven't seen succeed on the fullest level possible at the end of the day. So I think this is another, and obviously being in New York doesn't help anyone. Don't get me wrong.
No, no, the pressures of being in New York. I would never want to be a coach or a player in New York because you can't do enough for the fans. You can't do enough for the media there, and you're always going to be just chewed up and spit out.
Quick sidebar there. I feel for Malik Neighbors. That dude's got some balling ability, but he's stuck in the wrong place.
Yeah. Plus, I think he just got hurt too. I think New York, the Giants are going to be better than people think they're going to be or thought they would be, but they're still going to suck, unfortunately, because they put their eggs in the wrong fucking basket. They put it in the Daniel Jones basket instead of the Saquon Barkley's basket.
Yep.
And they're going to pay for that for the longest time because we've seen it. Daniel Jones is not worth the money he's getting paid.
Exactly. Nope. Seen it all true.
All right, so we both got the Vikings winning that one.
I got Ravens.
A quick one, just going right down the line. Panthers, Bears. I don't think there's much to be said there. I think the Bears are favored by like 5 points. not much to talk about. I have to say that the Panthers. Now, here's the funny thing about the Panthers. They have looked like a team with Big Red as the quarterback, as opposed to the guy that they thought was a lock as the #1 draft pick just 2 years ago.
If I've heard the criticism correctly, when that draft was taking place, you had CJ Stroud, you had these guys, everybody else in the draft. For some reason, CJ Stroud was not considered the #1 pick because they didn't consider him kind of the quote unquote academic savant, as I like to say in the nicest way.
Yeah,
they knocked him for the way that he was kind of, treated academically, let's say, when it comes to grading quarterback competency and whatnot, and all the stupid Wonderlic bullshit and all that stuff.
Who cares?
I'm sorry, he proved your shit wrong in 2 seconds. You put him in front of a camera. That guy is astute. He knows how to talk big team. He knows how to walk the walk, and frankly, shows it on the field. The guy is going to be a franchise player. End of story.
Yep, I agree, and I think that they put too much into that. The interpretation of how cerebral somebody can be. First off, football is football. All right. Some people just know how to do it and know how to feel it. And it just it's innate in the things they do. You can't put that on a Wonderlic test. You can't test that one out. That just doesn't work. Now, granted, when they did it with Ryan Leaf versus Peyton Manning and a few others, okay, I see that. I think CJ Stroud was, I guess, undersold because he was an Ohio State quarterback. And if you think about the past Ohio State quarterbacks who everybody gushed over, they all were bad. All of them. Every single one of them. Haskins, rest in peace.
Yep.
I don't understand, why Ohio State have great quarterbacks in college, but they don't seem to pan out in the pros. CJ Stroud is changing that. Yep. And he's going to be, entrenched in that conversation about winning and about greatest quarterbacks in the first 2, 3, 4 years of their careers. He's there. Bryce Young, I'm sorry to say, I'm not sure he could play football anywhere. I think his pedigree was, he came from Alabama, so he's got to be a great quarterback. He played for Nick Saban, so he's got to be great. I don't think that's true. And I think that his size, and I think now that he's had a year and a half of just getting his brains beat in and basically just being vilified on any local show. What are you going to do with that? How do you repair a guy like that?
His competency and appreciation for the game is lost in the fact that he had incompetent coaches and everything else to work with. I'm sorry, in the Carolina organization. The guy, I
disagree.
The guy might have physical talent, and I didn't get to see enough of him in college, honestly, to warrant that. And I still don't think Alabama quarterbacks are that stellar, in my personal opinion. But the chance to develop him into a pro quarterback was lost when you had all this turmoil and coaching and garbage else that's going on in Carolina and other franchises where you bring in rookie quarterbacks and you don't give them the support. Best example to counterpoint it, you have a new coach, new system in Washington. What have you done? You fostered everything around the quarterback, and now Jalen Daniels. There are some people even talking possibly MVP candidate. That's how far
heard that talk. Yes. I will see, it's just a small sample size. You're talking 1/4 of the season. So, let's not get too happy, but valid arguments for that based on his performance thus far. No, and I agree with you. And I think that's the problem. We've talked about this for all of these young quarterbacks that are coming into these bad situations, because that's what happens. The worst team is getting the best pick. So they're a worst team for a reason. If you're not building that team up, especially the offensive line, you're going to have trouble. If you're not building up the defense to where they can get stops so you can still remain in games while they're learning how to work within this new system, you're going to be unsuccessful. You're not going to do well. And the worst thing that they can do, and the Bears do it really well, is if you're changing your coaches every 2 years, every year, and then in Carolina, I forget who it was. Was it Frank Reich? Who?
Well, Frank Reich and Matt Rule. Yeah. You had a whole mess of shit.
Yeah. How are you supposed to learn if you're constantly being asked to learn a new system, a new cadence, a new vernacular? How are you supposed to ever really thrive and grow?
Well, and I hate to say it, some people aren't born to coach. I mean, I think we had a good example. Was it 2 years ago where I think the Colts had some turmoil and they brought in Jeff Saturday out of the freaking booth and had him coach for a couple of games.
How long did that work out? Did that work out well? Saturday ended up being sunset on Sunday.
No shit. I'm telling you, that's the thing. Like, you got guys that can talk football. Don't get me wrong. You got plenty. I think Jason Garrett was infamously known for this in the Cowboys.
Right.
And I'm sorry, but some people cannot coach, cannot develop players. That's the real secret. Is as a coach, can you develop players?
That's it.
You could have a playbook. Can you teach a quarterback to either adapt to your playbook or vice versa? And more importantly, vice versa. Can you make your plans adapt to your quarterback's physical traits?
Yes.
Physical traits to get the most out of them. That's what really you see the real success in. And I think that gets lost in even the conversation about the Patriots historically, where they figured out how to get the most out of their players.
Very true, because they had the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
They could put anybody in there. Hey, so Wes Welker, what did you do after the Patriots?
Yep.
What's his name? He did this funny commercial where he's in a casket and he's dead. No, the short guy who was immediate All-Pro. His last best receiver. Can't think of his name right now.
Yeah, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Brady made them.
Yep.
And they learned how to work within the system. They learned how to run routes correctly, and they became successful. And you didn't know Julian Edelman. You didn't know who these people were until Brady made them famous, except Randy Moss.
I lost DeFar and Gilmore. I can go down a litany of lists that have turned into great players.
Yeah.
But before that time, never heard of them. And
Nobody's. He taught them how to be professional. He taught them how to be great wide receivers and be able to be productive on the field and execute on the plans. So there can be hope for teams, but I tell you, the coach really matters. And if you have a great quarterback, you really got to put the right pieces around them. I'm not sure if the Bears have done that with Caleb at the beginning of the season. They said, "Oh, this is the best situation a rookie could ever be in." Well, I think Jaden Daniels can probably say that. I don't know about Caleb, but there's still a potential there. As long as they don't lame duck and fire the coach, and he has to learn a new system, and this is what I think we talked about this, or I talked about it with someone else. Coaches should be given more time to be successful or become successful. You're going to have your first losing season, second losing season, because you're on a losing team. There it is. That's going to help you, just like, and we talked, it was us. Just like the presidents have 4 years. You can't just jump in and all of a sudden create a whole new culture and be able to turn a franchise who's been losing as a standard into a winner overnight. You're not going to do that. It's not even going to happen in the first year. It may not happen in the second year. But by that time, because we're so results oriented, that coach is gone. And they're bringing in a new coach, new system, new everything.
Imagine if Duke would have fired Mike Krzyzewski after he came over and had a few losing seasons at Duke instead of writing him out.
I mean, that's so true. How about Jimmy Johnson?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just, you got to give people time to, trees don't grow overnight. Flowers don't grow overnight. You got to nurture them. You got to give them an opportunity to go through some of this.
Build roots. That's what you need.
Exactly. You need to build those roots so you have a solid foundation to grow upon. But you never get that if you constantly have change.
Well, all the topical shit, not the stuff that actually makes it stronger. That's what it is.
Well, for that game, we don't even need to talk about it. I actually think the Bears win by 3 touchdowns.
I think I would honestly take the points all day on that one. Yeah.
Commanders, the surprising Commanders against the lowly Cleveland Browns.
I'm picking a good game there. I don't know who to pick, only on the premise that, they're playing in DC, but there's not really a home advantage. So there's that. But this is a redemption game for the Browns, where honestly it's make it break it, in my opinion. If they lose this game, their season's over, in my opinion. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on. I think Stefanski, I think there's going to be pressure, obviously, on Deshaun Watson, no question.
Right.
I got to show up and show out, because they got to decide also what they're going to do over the next few weeks, because they'll get Chubb back in week 6 or 7.
Yep.
Do you activate him? Do you, go to your, still roll with your other guys? What do you do? And then with Deshaun Watson, I'm sure there's probably somebody in a law office in Cleveland trying to figure out how to term that contract,
Man, or at least get him to go to like a massage parlor
No kidding.
They're like, hey man, don't you need a massage? Come on, we know you're gonna try to flirt. We can now get you to absolve, like to cancel that contract out, so we don't have to pay you any more money. Because this is a guy who's remained paid over the last 4 or 5 years, hasn't even played much, and it's just been a joke.
Well, talk about a polar opposite. You've got kids that came out of hype out of college. So you got Jalen Daniels. You got Deshaun Watson. Dalen Daniels, hopefully the model for what you want a quarterback to be, long run. We'll see in time.
Yeah, we'll see.
Deshaun had that potential in year 1, and since then it's just, Wile E. Coyote style.
And he had a good team in Houston. So amazing. They had a team. Yeah. They had a playoff team right there.
Yep. So no, like I said, I think it's a make it break it game for the Browns. Commanders are good. I still don't trust the defense, obviously. They don't have enough firepower on their defense to shut down a Browns offense when operating properly. So I'm going to lean toward the Browns on the road. It's going to be an interesting game, I think. It'll be close, but I'm going to go with the Browns.
You know what? We got to start taking some notes on our bets. So we'll have it on video. We should recap it. So at some point we can say mid-season, how have we done? I'm actually going against you again. I think Washington, just like Minnesota, is the real deal. And while they may not be perfect, and you're right about the defense, they still got some growing to do. I feel like they have changed their culture. One of the times you see it overnight. Like they went from losers to we think we can win every game we play. And I think that's going to carry them through. They're at home. I think Cleveland has a lot more to lose than Washington has to win. And I think that Cleveland, being Cleveland, remember, this franchise has been, shackled in as long as I've been alive with winning, with the idea of being able to win. They've just been shackled to the losers bandwagon forever, from the fumble on. And I just feel like, it's going to be a pretty volatile locker room with Myles Garrett, who is a perennial all-star and a great defensive end, feeling like they're squandering their opportunities. And if they go to 1-4, it's really going to get ugly. And I think they're going to go to 1-4. So I have, I've got the Commanders in that one. Next on the slate, I see Patriots against the Dolphins. Patriots at home. After seeing that game with Tua, I guess the Dolphins have not ever really had Huntley play any snaps in practice because
they haven't had any quarterback practicing at practice beyond Tua. Is what it seems like. Swear to God.
Horrible.
That was like you threw a kid from the high school squad and said, "Hey, here, you're going to go jump in and play today." That was that bad.
I mean, it was that bad. And
I mean, the guys had starts in Baltimore. I've seen it firsthand over here, and I'm sitting there like, this dude looked like deer in the headlights. Couldn't get a ball out 2 yards if it saved his life. Like I felt bad.
2 yards. You're exactly right. Couldn't complete a pass over 2 yards. And think about what Miami has. They have a great running back duo. They've got a great duo of wide receivers. How is it that they can't even get the ball in the end zone?
Couldn't. Well, forget the end zone. Can't move it down the field. Like I said, it was mind-boggling to see something that bad. And if that's how bad their franchise is set up, where if Tua goes down, it's the end of the world. I mean, I feel bad for the rest of their team because they got a lot of money spent on all sides of the ball over there, especially that defense secondary. I mean, I think you start thinking about blow up if you lose this game. And some people have, I think, already seen some talk about, okay, do we trade Tyreek? Do we trade Waddle and all that stuff? And hey, you might have to start shopping to get some draft capital because you don't have anything after Tua. If Tua's dead, it's over. And I mean that in the nicest way possible, but I mean, at best, it looks like maybe a week 8, week 9 return for that guy. But again, should he come back? I don't know. That's up to him and his family, obviously.
Yeah, that's a whole different discussion. And as much as you may love a sport and you've lived this your whole life, at some point you have to reevaluate what's more important here. Yeah, okay, you can do that and come back and potentially play. But I think part of the reason why he's where he is right now is because somebody didn't say to him, you've had these concussions. So either you don't run at all, or when you do run, if someone looks like they could come near you, slide with your feet first. He went in head first. And it shows that he's still pretty brittle because that didn't look like a ferocious tackle. And yet he's where he is. So I'm my thoughts go out to his family. Make the right decision. Football is great. You got that contract before this happened, which I'm happy for you to have done that. But if you need to quit, you need to quit. So
exactly. No, at the end of the day, I mean, for that game, I'll go with Patriots at home. I think it's going to be them just kind of running the ball over Ramondre Stevenson, who's a great running back, by the way, and they have a good system for him.
And they got Gibson too.
Yeah, Gibson. They got a lot of pieces there. So I mean, I think they're a work in progress. New coach, new culture. Not necessarily a new culture, but new coach. They got new parts. They got Drake May and all that stuff going on, and Jacoby. And I think they'll make it work enough to where they'll beat the Dolphins for now. The Dolphins just got to figure out what the heck they're doing, because I mean, they just look so bad against, honestly, what I consider now to be almost one of the worst teams in the Titans, honestly, with Will Levis at the helm.
Exactly. And they made them look good.
They made them look good. That's the scary part. They made Will Levis look like a perennial all-star. I mean,
no, they didn't make him look like that.
Oh, sorry,
Mason Rudolph looked like that coming in his speed, because he got hurt on that one extension play when he tried to get the first down.
Yep.
All right, so we'll see. I got the Patriots as well. I don't see the Dolphins pulling this out.
No.
Jaguars, Colts.
Yep. Interesting game. I think, again, if the Jaguars don't win, you start questioning, why'd you pay this man? I mean, like, what the hell?
Did he deserve that contract? What has Trevor done besides look like Lord Farquhar?
See, I equate this to the Daniel Jones syndrome, where the Jaguars were put in a position because of the market. It's okay, do we pay the guy that we know that we've had in front of our franchise and who's halfway decent, or so we thought, and go ahead and pay him the money that he deserves, or do we go shopping again and start over? So they had to make a decision, just like the Giants did. It's like, hey, do I have to go in the free agency and go look for somebody and pay somebody, or do I pay Daniel Jones the $40 million? I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, but it's Daniel Jones. I don't care if I don't pay him $4, but that's a whole different story. Now Trevor Lawrence, there's still talk about him having progress, promise and everything else, and he's got weapons on that team. He's got good receivers to throw to. He's got a great running back for almost 8 years now, including college. So it's an enigma to me as to why they are not better. They've got a good coach. I mean, Doug Peterson's a good coach, as far as I know. Maybe he's gone downhill since the time of the Eagles. I don't know. It's tough. I mean, I'm going Colts. I like their disciplined football they play over there. It's a new brand of football in Indianapolis, and it's nice to watch. And they've got all the pieces, both sides of the ball.
Hey, they got the pieces. Look, they're still a rookie quarterback. In my mind, quarterback got hurt, and they brought in Joe. I just started to work on my car in my garage, Flacco, and he balled out, and they won that game against the Steelers, who were undefeated at the time and have a great defense.
Yep. Joey Flacco is the man. That's all I can
volumes there, baby. That speaks volumes. And for all of those teams with these backup quarterback issues, Miami and otherwise, you missed out on getting Joe Flacco.
I mean, we used to call Mr. Burrow Joe Cool, and he used to wear that chinchilla jacket coming in, that they beat. You know what? Joey Flacco needs to don that for the rest of his career, because that dude has saved franchises.
Yes, he has. Jets, a few others. He's come in and he's played, and he's done what others can't seem to do. And you mentioned something I just wanted to touch on. When we talk about the Jaguars, or Jaguars, if you want to pronounce it that way. How is it that we talked about Deshaun Watson overpaid? We talked about Daniel Jones overpaid. And I get it. Sometimes the market makes you, like Lovie Jones kept his job, or Lovie Smith kept his job because he got the Bears to the Super Bowl that year. You can't fire a coach that does that. Well, you also have to pay players based on that time and situation. And I don't fault them for paying him that money, but boy, I would hold his ass accountable for it now, because this is ridiculous. I mean, he hasn't won any playoff games, has he? So what has he done? And what is he going to do? And if they don't win this game, they're going to be like Cleveland. And I think that their season could be over before it starts.
See, not to make it like a sidetrack, but why, or when in the country, or when in the world did we go to the point where we're forced to pay things at whatever the market rate is versus what the actual quality of the product is at the end of the day. And I'm talking both football, non-football, everything. Like, it's crazy that market forces have dictated that much. And we're paying top dollar now for mediocre shit everywhere.
Yes, totally agree. Totally agree.
You know what I mean?
Everything is overpriced and overrated, and it's all potential driven. And I'm sorry, I think that's something we see in today's sporting landscape is everybody's getting paid and they're not as hungry once they get paid. They just aren't.
I mean, think about if we had an era like the 80s and 90s where you had guys that were legitimately the best at their craft. You had Jerry Rice as a wide receiver, perfection.
Right.
Chris Carter, all these guys. If those guys truly got paid what they should have been paid as the top of their game, dear God,
And I'm all for players getting paid because the owners are making so much money. If they can pay you $400 million and still make a nice profit, that's telling you something. But my God, there should be some kind of you need to earn that money.
Well, think about it. I mean, I've got to pull up an official list, and I probably will here in a second, of the top paid quarterbacks annually right now. I think Pat Mahomes is at the bottom tier of the top 10, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he is. Sad. That is so sad.
Right? Like,
he's done it, but he sort of got the Scottie Pippen, right? So he got his contract earlier, and now all of these people are making money. The Dak Prescotts of the world, every single quarterback got paid more than Mahomes. I can't think of his name right now, but
well, think about this way. If I'm an owner or even in the league in general, and I'm thinking about how I should pay a quarterback or what I should offer up in fear commiseration, you would think performance matters first, because if you think about it, if the quarterback is earning up to his keep, so like Mahomes, for instance, he's getting, I think, 40 or 45 right now, if I'm not mistaken. So he's still at the bottom tier of an annual percentage. He's making more than double or probably triple that in endorsement money because of how successful he's been on the field.
Exactly.
And if it is in fact about making the most money while you're as good as you can be on the field, then as a player, agent, and everything else that's working on the opposite side of you, I get that you're trying to milk the most amount of money guaranteed that you can out of your playing career. That's fair. But if you truly are great at what you are, you can afford $5-10 million less per year. Get yourself another side piece on your team.
Exactly.
Extra money elsewhere. Add whatever the hell you want.
That's why Michael Jordan didn't complain when you had players like John Concact, who was the highest paid player in the NBA at one point. Because Jordan was making 2 to 3 times that on the side. And then once he signed the Nike deal, that just exploded ridiculous. He made tons of money off of that. But I think that is a great point. These quarterbacks are trying to get as much as they can. I'd be willing to do a little bit of that. Bobby Bonilla, pay me a little bit later on in my life after I stop playing football so that we can build our team and build a dynasty. What'd you say?
Yep. I'm a Shohei Ohtani.
There you go. Shohei's doing it too.
Shitload of money.
Yep. But that's what you do. The money shouldn't matter at this point. You already got like 100 million, 200 million. How much more do you need? Defer that payment, make your team stronger, and more importantly, especially if you're the quarterback, talk about how a team's going to play for you. Hey, thank you for allowing me to make more money.
Imagine your lineman coming up to you and say, thank you for letting me get paid too, and I will protect your
life. I'll protect your ass. I won't do the Olay like in the longest yard. I'll actually protect you.
So true. That's a good analogy.
So, you were talking about the quarterbacks. So, what was I looking at here? So the 10 highest paid quarterbacks. So the top 4, Dak Prescott is making $60 million per year.
Yep.
Just signed that contract. Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, and Joe Burrow are tied for the second spot with $55 million annually.
Yep.
$55 million. I hate the way they have this laid out and that's like Joe Burrow, I give you credit, but again, that's all potential. He went to 1 Super Bowl. That's it. Potential.
1 year. Yeah, 1 year.
He's been injured more than he's been playing. So tied for second, Joe Burrow flag. So fifth, Tua Tagovailoa. He's getting 53 million a year.
Yep.
Tied for 5th as well, or just slightly below him, Jared Goff.
Yep.
53 million. Number 7, Justin Herbert, 52.5 million. Number 8, the reigning two-time MVP, reigning MVP, Lamar Jackson's getting paid 52 million. He's ranked 8th on this list.
At 8, yeah, exactly.
Jalen Hurts is 9th. And I was going to say this. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is in the top 10. I'm right. Jalen Hurts, listen to these names now. Jalen Hurts, 51 million. Kyler Murray, 46.1 million. Deshaun Watson at 11th, 46 million. Deshaun Watson, y'all. Yeah, what has he done in the last 4 years? Hasn't even played.
Think about that spread you just talked about. You started at 60, down to 46 now, and you're still not even getting to even the range that Pat Mahomes was at.
Now here come the better quarterbacks who are getting paid less. Patrick Mahomes, tied for 12, 45 million with Kirk Cousins. Josh Allen, who is currently number 1 ranked quarterback, is getting paid 43 million at 14th. Daniel Jones, I don't even know how the hell, like Davy Jones, it should be like Davy Jones' locker. He's Daniel Jones, 40 million, tied for 15th. Matthew Stafford, who signed that contract, getting his 40 million. So that's the top 15 quarterbacks in the league. You know, pay wise. But the top 5 of the top 5, I get Dak Prescott. He had leverage, and he's at Dallas. I get Joe Burrow because they were trying to tie him in to make sure they had him long term.
Here's your highlighted summary. The guys you just named off somewhere below 9 and all the way down to 15. Those are the guys that are in the playoffs in the Super Bowl. All above that, zero.
Every year. So you take Lamar Jackson was at 8. So like you said, Justin Herbert, Jared Goff, Tua Tagovailoa, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott. Between them all, they probably got a handful of playoff victories, literally combined. Incredible. But that's all potential and leverage, right? So pretty incredible that we're seeing that kind of money rolled out. And none of those teams are really winners.
So we're paying on potential and leverage, and I get that in football. In basketball, we don't do that. If you think about it, do we?
There are a couple of players that are probably overpaid that had leverage and such. But usually the superstars are getting what they're supposed to. The Stephon Curry, there's not like these young bucks are getting crazy money. Maybe like an Ant-Man might get that and be like the highest paid player on potential. But he's shown us by beating the reigning champs, that, I got this. And I think that's how Joe Burrow parlayed his beating the reigning champs into a nice contract. So I get it. But and the funny thing about football, though, is I don't know how much is guaranteed in these contracts nowadays. It used to crack me up because they didn't have a lot of guaranteed money. Like, you would be a football player playing the most dangerous sport, and baseball players were getting guaranteed contracts.
There were paper contracts in football and even baseball a while ago. There were contracts that were artificial. Like, you'd come out with $100 million or whatever over the course of whatever number of years, but a lot of it wasn't guaranteed, obviously, right? And changed in the last 10, 15 years where agents were like, no, I got to get my guaranteed money from my player. Okay, great. So they've done that, and frankly, that guaranteed money is obscene to the average consumer, obviously, and
ridiculous.
Like we just said to this whole argument, some of these quarterbacks, some of these guys that are paid at their position like crazy money. Why aren't you thinking about the bigger benefit of give up a little here, win the long-term legacy, right?
Right. That's true.
And all the other things that come even after you've ended your sport in retirement with ads, revenues, whatever you want.
Yeah, you got your built-in pension plan, and a hell of a pension plan because you're probably getting back in $30 million a year, 20 million, whatever that number is. That's how you live. That's how you do it. That's how you take advantage of the situation and the timing to basically create wealth. Not just be rich, create wealth.
There's one guy in the NBA, I think, I don't know if he gets enough, honestly, good press about what he's done with all the money and things that he's made in his career, and that's Kevin Durant. if you look at how diversified that man's portfolio is behind the scenes of what he's done with his money and all that, besides the fact that he is a talented individual and everything else, it's wild. He's got the craziest investor team you could possibly think of. And he is so diversified for the rest of his life. He's got generational wealth for 10 generations.
Oh, smart.
Him, LeBron, they're thinking ahead.
Some woman or man needs to go and talk to Kevin like, hey, baby.
No shit.
You don't want to live the rest of your life alone because you won't live it with me.
They got to get past his mom.
Right?
They got to pass that test.
We got a few more games to get through, and I wanted to make sure we got to a couple that are really important. The next two, definitely. So Bills, Texans. You got Josh Allen. You got Stephon Diggs coming back together. They can play lovey-dovey, but some tells me they don't really like each other as much as they're saying they do on camera.
Bills didn't look as hot, last week. And the Texans are still kind of growing. Honestly, it's going to be a great game. I think because it's in Houston, I will give it to the Texans.
I'm going to do the same. I think that Houston's going to pull it out. I've been surprised by their defense. Their defense has been sort of shoddy, looking more Swiss cheese than American cheese. So I don't know. We'll have to see about that one. But I still pick the Texans, them being at home, and they need that lift too. They need to get back into that driver's seat in the AFC South since all of those teams suck.
Yeah, no, totally agree.
Ravens, Bengals. This game could mean a lot for either team.
I think it's make it break it for the Bengals. No questions there. The Ravens, honestly, I think the general demur around here is they need to get on track for what the potential is of this team. They thought that they were going to, kick the Chiefs, couldn't keep up. They've had bad losses here and there too, and frankly, that Cowboys game was a gimme. It's not, nothing, whatever. I think it's a must win for both teams. I'm going to give it to the Ravens on the simple fact that the running game is on now. Derrick Henry, beast mode. Lamar Jackson, still action Jackson with his feet. They've got to figure out where they're going to throw the ball. Mark Andrews, I think, is not the player that he used to be. If people have realized that here, I think it'll be understood now on a national level. But you got Isaiah Likely, and I think he's the next coming of a great tenant, of a great ten. They need a wide receiver. They need a pure one wide receiver in Baltimore. They don't have it. Could they go get, a Devontae Adams? They should.
There's been talk about that.
Yeah, it would make them beast mode. There's no question. They would have beat the Chiefs with Devontae. There's no question.
Yeah, Zay, as much as I think he's a two. I don't know if he gets the props that he should get, but he's not a number one.
He's Robin. He's not Batman.
That's agreed.
Yep.
And I think the same thing. I think the Ravens, they finally figured out, oh, that's right. We went and got Derrick Henry. We need to figure out how to utilize this guy and stop giving him those dives into the middle for 1 yard. I almost got sick because I got him on one of my fantasy teams. The first two games, I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Hey, not to make it, I'm surprised they haven't pulled up a lynch cord for Todd Monken and that offensive coordinator so far. It's ridiculous out here. Like between last year and this year, I'm like, have you not learned your lesson?
But they were doing it again. That's why they lost to Kansas City again, right? Because they got abandoned the run and thinking they're going to pass. And that Lamar is great and he does what he does. But if you're going to make him a passing quarterback, you are going to lose. Yep. You need to use all of your weapons, and then his passing becomes more effective because they're afraid that he might run. They're afraid that you might run. You can do play action pass, but
here's a fun one. So there's a debate, at least I have with folks around here that are Ravens fans. I'm like, do you think Lamar Jackson would be better off being able to operate more freestyle, so more just RPO, crazy, whatever, as he feels at the line, kind of like what almost Peyton Manning used to have the full control of his offense because he could call an audible. His coach is fine with it. Like yeah. So at that point, do you give Lamar free reign? Because honestly, that dude in a playground game, he's deadly. You know what I mean? Like he can improvise, do whatever, no problem, and he will use his weapons. And he's got every weapon on the field.
Yep.
Do you let him have a little bit more freedom? Is what my question is. Like, do you let him improvise at the line, do more run plays if that's necessary? Let him call the box and stop listening to the offensive coordinator and stick to fixed plays.
As long as he's able to read defenses correctly, I would agree.
Yeah.
I think that he plays schoolyard ball like Patrick Mahomes does, like Josh Allen does. These guys know how to, operate within that chaos. And I think that they do a good job of it. So I don't disagree with you there. All right. So we got like Broncos, Ravens. So wait. So we both got Ravens on that one. Broncos, Raiders.
Yep.
I don't really have much to say of this. Both teams, in my opinion, aren't great. I would just have to take the Broncos on this one just because of their defense. Just because of their defense in there at home.
Yep.
Next game, Cardinals, 49ers.
Again, must-win game for the 49ers. I think they're also decimated on injuries. I get that, but honestly, Jordan Mason's working out well enough. George Kittle is basically healthy, so he's fine. I think they'll get it going again. They need to figure out how to use Ayuk. I mean, come on.
They had all of this drama with him, and then they're not using him.
Yep. So, I think in terms of offensive firepower, the 49ers there, they've got a defense. I don't think the Cardinals have enough because they got Marvin Harrison, James Conner, but it's not enough to beat the Niners in San Francisco.
I would say you're right, but if there is an upset special on my pocket, it would be this one. For everything that you're saying that San Francisco should win, they're favored by 5.5 or whatever that is. They've got all of the weapons, even without Debo, even without McCaffrey. They still have their defense, but Kyler Murray seems to show up for certain games, and this would be one of those games. And they do have Harrison, they do have Connors. They could play.
Another guy that's capable of schoolyard ball if he ever had protection. He's never had protection.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah.
So, but I think the 49ers will win this, but that would be my upset special.
Yep.
Seahawks, Giants. I'm not sure there needs to be much said here. The Giants are what they are. Just as Dennis Green said. What's that?
Gino.
And you know what? I think Gino doesn't get nearly as much credit. And even when you look at the fantasy rankings, this and that, you look at everybody's like, yeah, Gino is just Gino, but Gino throws for 300 yards. He's got the weapons. And if Walker can stay healthy, like Carbonneau as well, boy, they got running game, they got passing, they got a decent defense at times. Their guys have been hurt, and I think that showed against Detroit. They got what's necessary. Giants got nothing to say about them. Malik Neighbors is their team, and he's hurt. Not sure there's anything else to say there.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Gino's never gotten respect through college, and even obviously got set up poorly in the pros, being where he was at the Jets. But now he's in a good place. I think he's coming off to show what kind of leadership he can have. So I really like his ascendancy into like becoming a respected quarterback. Now.
Packers, Rams. I'm not sure there's a lot to this one. The Rams surprisingly have won games without their two best receivers. And maybe two best players.
Well, they got that man named Stafford. He did it with less in Detroit.
Yeah. Well, after Megatron was gone. Yep.
So no. So at the end of the day, I mean, you know what? The Packers have played well with their backup quarterback. Let's face facts.
Kudos to LaFleur and coming up with a plan to be able to get the most out of Willis without compromising the offense to the point where you're only scoring out, 10 points a game and hoping your defense wins it for you.
Yep. So no, I like the Packers there on the road. I think the Rams are just too decimated right now. They've got to get Puka and Cup back to turn into, potentially what they could be.
Agreed.
Yep.
Steelers, Cowboys. How about those Cowboys?
Them Cowboys. Now they're playing in Steel City. I'm going Steel City all the way on that one for sure. I think Dallas puts up points in the game, but Steel City's got a defense. Steel City's offense is getting underrated, in my opinion. Justin Fields still does not get enough credit for being resurrected from the grave. I like the fact that the Steelers are running the ball really well right now, underhandedly. People don't give that enough respect right now. Najee Harris and all that. It's working. They need to get more play calling going to their receivers. George Pickens isn't getting the ball enough, in my opinion, because that dude can be great.
Agreed.
Can Dallas' secondary stop him? I mean, honestly, Dallas' secondaries look like Swiss cheese from all the hype they've gotten.
Yeah, where's Blanks? Where's Diggs? Where's all these guys?
Yep. Where are these dogs? I don't see them.
I would normally agree with you here, but this is going to be my upset special of the week. So I didn't take the Cardinals. I still think San Fran will win. This is one of those where I feel like Dallas's back is against the wall. They're going to rely on Dak, but don't be surprised if Dowdle has a little bit more impact on this game than he has so far this year. And I actually think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and Dallas is going to pull this one out.
Uncle Rico. Let's see how it goes.
All right, and then the best game, the best game of the week.
Yep.
Chiefs Saints in Kansas City.
In Kansas City, which is what I like. So I'm definitely taking the Chiefs there. Will it be an easy game? I hope so, because of two things. I think the defense will stymie the Saints a little bit more than the Saints have been used to getting stopped in their games that they've had where they've had success. Clearly, they're putting up numbers. Don't get me wrong. Kamara,
they didn't against Philly, though. They didn't against Philly, and Philly doesn't have a great defense.
And that's the thing. All Philly did was press up the middle. And guess what? We have that guy named Chris Jones. That's all I can say. and I haven't looked at the official injury report yet, but I think we got a Menahu back. And if that's the case, you got two dogs bull rushing this morning. And they're bull rushing. Yeah.
I haven't looked at the report, but that's what we need. I think we need more than just Chris Jones. I also think they need to stop the explosive plays. I'm sorry, Shaheed is Shaheed. Dude can can run out there and get behind your defense.
So that's my fear. And I think this becomes a good test game for our secondary because we've got the talent. We got McDuffie. We got them kids back there. That it's a good secondary, but they need to be tested for the same speed that these two bring with Olave and Shaheed. Those boys fly down the field, and they are good receivers.
Yes. So that can do something. And, you still got Kamara. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Alvin, for all the troubles he may have had in various ways in the past, dude runs like a bull, and he's got speed and power.
I think if the Saints are going to win, they're going to have to air it out. I think we actually stop Kamara. I think our middle linebackers are playing extremely well right now. I like the coverage they've had on running teams the last couple of games.
Mm-hmm.
We've given up plays, don't get me wrong, but it's bend, don't break. It's always worked.
Bend, don't break has been working. Spags, hats off to you, baby.
Yeah, if the secondary gets smoked, that's where the Chiefs going to lose this game, basically. And that's going to come from Olave.
I would agree with that. And that's what they need to do. If they're getting enough pressure on Carr, I think you can, you stop him from being able to pass it downfield. As long as you're at least showing enough discipline to not let the little stop and goes work, things like that, you should be okay. Stop the big plays. You stop New Orleans.
Now, I'm still trying. I got to go look back at the Saints roster. I think they still have the Honey Badger still somewhere over there, if I'm not mistaken. They still got
yeah, I think I saw him intercept the ball earlier this year, but he's been a journeyman as of late.
He'll be his return game back to KC,
Yeah. So it'd be nice to see us burn him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the other thing that I think that Kansas City, I have them to win this game. Use Kelsey more, especially now that Rice is gone. Use Worthy to stretch the field. Use Kelsey for middle of the field and being able to get those 20-yard chunk plays. And hopefully Kareem Hunt can continue to learn the offense, run hard, and at least keep the defense honest to where they would have to at least, have 7 in the box. Even I think 58, depending on certain downs.
They got Hunt practicing for the last 2 weeks. Steele's going to be the power back in the middle to go up the middle, but you need Hunt going on the outside, catching those little flank passes like Pacheco was doing to open up the field more. And I think, honestly, you're either going to see one of two things. You're either going to see a decoy system coming out of Schuster and Hardman as the other receivers and just kind of even around, and maybe even, Sky Vodka, whatever his name is.
Don't put him in, please. Guys,
Ciroc, bottle of Ciroc, whatever you want to call him, but he'll be that out man. But the guy that could get the ball in that situation could be Schuster, honestly, because he's if you stretch the field Worthy, like you're saying, you got Kelsey underneath, you've got a running man out wide. Schuster might be that open guy somewhere on one-on-one coverage all day. And you've got to hit him at that point. And he's got to catch the ball. Simple enough.
He's got to catch the ball. So that was part of Kansas City's problem last year. I haven't seen it as much this year. Yep. I think they need to create levels within the offense. And I think Mahomes is adept at being able to identify the defense to understand where the right play is.
I'm going to call for a little bit of surprise. I think that the tight end that finishes with the most catches and maybe the most yards, Noah Gray.
I don't want to hear that because Kelsey's on my fantasy team. So
Kelsey's on my fantasy team too. But I think if you've watched them the last few games, they've gone into more 2 tight end sets, which is interesting. Especially near the goal line. They targeted Gray, I think, in the end zone last week, and he just missed the opportunity.
Yes.
So I think there's going to be situations like that that are going to open up, especially when you play a 2 tight end set now with Rice out, where it's going to be kind of fun to watch that other guy over here. Yeah.
Well, I think what I'm seeing or have seen, not like I watched the tape, but I've seen the tape that others have put up and being able to identify certain things. Mahomes has got to get a little bit more confidence behind him and his team, because there have been times where he was just a beat too fast and he didn't allow Kelsey to release or other receivers to release and hit them. If he can wait that extra beat, I think Kansas City's offense will start clicking.
Part of that's hitting on the front line. I think he's got a weaker strong side now than he had before with the new tackle and stuff like that. I forget the Hawaiian guy's name or Simone's name. The rookie right tackle. He's not getting that protection, that extra second, I think, and that's what's really hurting right now.
I agree with you there. Hopefully he will, they'll be able to rectify that. He'll be able to get more confidence and be able to give his receivers that extra moment to get open.
Yep. No, I think it'll be Monday nighter. Yeah.
We shall see some interesting picks. Not sure what the betting public will be doing, but as we've seen with this entire year, nothing is a given. Nothing is a given. Anybody can beat anyone on any given Thursday, Sunday, Monday.
This is the one year I didn't do an eliminator pool, but I imagine they've got to be blown up this year.
I did it. I did. So I got a good story before we close out. Last year I got in this eliminator pool, and I'm used to being in the ones where you pick the winner. So I picked Baltimore.
Yep.
But the pool was the loser's pool. So I had to pick the loser. And Baltimore almost lost that first game last year, but they won. So this year I was like, okay, I know now. I'll pick the loser. I forget who New England played. But they were.
They beat the Bengals.
They were supposed to lose. Yeah, they were supposed to lose that game by like 10.
Yep.
And they beat the Bengals, and I was out. And I just said, fuck this. I'm not going to get in any of these pools ever again.
Every week this season for the last 4 weeks, there's always been you thought it was a gimme. Not so much.
You just don't know. And that's the scary part, I would think, for most of these teams, is that even though Kansas City's been pulling out games, by less than 5 points, 3 points, whatever it is, average, they're winning these games.
That's because that's a trait of a good team, is you figure out how to win those close games. And if it happens once, if it happens twice, maybe a trend. 4 times,
you know what you're doing. Yeah, my wife was like, they're getting lucky because she hates the Chiefs because I like the Chiefs. And that's my hometown team. And it's like, no, it's maybe the first game was lucky, and potentially the second game was lucky. But after you're doing it so often, it's not luck anymore. That's not luck.
And then they always pan over to Mahomes or Kelsey after, it's fourth quarter, they're down 7. Cool as a cucumber. Like, all right, just get us the damn ball. Get us the damn ball, let us play. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, if I'm the other teams and every team is showing that they have some type of chink in their armor, I would be afraid because Kansas City is still winning. And if they get home field advantage, it's going to be hell for everybody in the AFC to try to beat them. In the NFC, I'm not even sure anymore who's the team. People thought Dallas and the Eagles, they look very, very pedestrian at best. Is it a team like New Orleans or Minnesota? We shall see if they can keep that up for a 17-game season. This is just 25% of the games right now. So let's see what they do after these next few weeks. Minnesota might be the real deal, and the Lions could be the real deal. Jordan Love with the Packers could be the real deal. And I even heard on one of the shows, they said those are the 3 best teams in the NFC right now.
Wild would it be if all 4 teams in the NFC North got in the playoffs?
Okay, has that ever happened before?
I don't think it's happened yet. And under the new era, since we have 7 teams now instead of 6, it could happen, right?
It could, right.
How wild would that be?
I would love it because the Bears are obviously the worst of that 4 that we just talked about. So if they can make the playoffs, that's great. And it's not, something that couldn't be attained. I just don't think they will. I think that given where the AFC South or NFC South is right now, That's where the extra team is going to come from. I do think that the NFC North could have 3 teams.
Yep.
All 3 of those teams are valid,
Absolutely.
teams when you look at playoffs. Yep. But I think it's going to be. I really do think that New Orleans is going to continue to impress people, and I think Atlanta's going to pick themselves up.
I think there's going to be 2 teams coming out of the South, and at least 2 out of the North.
At least 2 out of the North, maybe 3.
3. So it's going to get very interesting. And everybody thought, the NFC East, it'll be the Eagles and the Cowboys. It might just be one.
It may just be one, unless they turn things around, and it may not be the team that everybody thought.
Oh, and it might not even be the 49ers out of the West. It might be the Seahawks.
It might be the Seahawks out of the West, especially with all of their and if McCaffrey and I'm just going to shout this out now, so we could talk about this, weeks from now. If I end up making the playoffs in fantasy football with the first pick of the draft, never playing a game, I should get an award for that, because I took McCaffrey as my first pick, and he hasn't played a game.
Shout out to all those folks that got stuck with the number 1 pick this year, went with McCaffrey, and if you can make it to your fantasy playoffs and potentially a great season without him, hats off to you, man. That's a hell of a move in fantasy football.
I'm currently second in our division. Or no, I think I'm tied. No, yeah, I'm second because we got 1 undefeated team. So, and I'm actually ranked 3rd based on points, but I'm 3-1.
Yeah.
Considering, and I should be 4-0. That was the first week when I kept McCaffrey on my starting lineup, because San Francisco made it seem like he was going to play, knowing that he wouldn't. And I had no choice because it was a Monday night game. I couldn't replace him at that point. Yep. So, and I lost by a handful of points because of that. So, you know what? I deserve a medal. Just think about that later on. We talk about, fantasy and playoffs and stuff like that in week 10 or week 11, etc.
Absolutely valid point, to say the least. I've got to make a fun decision this week of starting Justin Fields or Deshaun Watson.
I'm thinking that's a no-brainer.
Is it, though?
So, who did we say Cleveland was playing again?
Cleveland's playing against Washington, and Washington technically
defense isn't great.
Well, that's what I'm saying. On paper, they're the 31st ranked secondary, apparently.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And then you got Justin Fields who's going against Dallas. Secondary, hasn't shown up. They're capable, right?
But Justin Fields could run for a touchdown of 50 yards.
That's the other thing I'm thinking is Justin Fields can run. Now, I do have a 3rd option, but I'm not going to go with it, and that's Matt Stafford. I do all this because, of course, I drafted Tua. So
there you go. That'll hurt you. It's hurting people. Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer. My own personal opinion. The upside on Justin Fields is way more than Deshaun Watson, and Deshaun Watson hasn't shown crap this year. Justin Fields, at least last game, did he throw for over 300 yards?
And
he ran for like over 100 yards or something like that. That's the Lamar kind of stats that make him much more of a fantasy threat than Deshaun Watson will ever be.
Very true. No, I don't disagree. Makes sense. But nope. That's our rundown for the week. Let's see how we hold. I think I tallied up like what we did, so we can discuss this obviously on Quarterback Monday, Quarterback Tuesday, and see how it goes.
There you go. We'll do it. We'll do it, and we'll see. Maybe I can come up with a nice little ditty. I hate to use that term nowadays, but a little ditty for us to play before we get started on our recap of the weekend.
Absolutely.
All right.
Hopefully this was fun for all. And like I said, fun little sports day. But again, make good decisions every week. Be positive and have good times. That's all you can ask for every week.
Right. That's right. And if you don't have red zone, especially if your local team is playing late or playing early and you don't have anything in that other slot, get red zone, because it's fun to watch all the things happening as they happen.
That dude he has the greatest job in the world. That's all I can say.
Talk about something. If when I was in 8th grade, they could say this was a possibility of where you could end up, I would have gone there. That would have been
your choice. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, but I hope that everybody enjoys the week as we had stated earlier. Have fun with the games. Get together with friends. Party, eat, drink, and be merry. And we'll reconvene again early next week and see how this all pans out.
Get your popcorn ready.
Popcorn ready, baby.
All right. We'll see you
All
guys.
right. Be well.